razor-sharp wit, bone-crushing pressure, and a monarch who might behead you for a bad joke. Welcome to life as a Tudor court jester, where your entire existence depends on making history's most dangerous audience laugh. When King Henry VIII summoned you to court, it felt like winning the medieval lottery. You'd no longer be performing for turnips in village squares. You'd have food, lodging, and the ear of the most powerful man in England. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, just everything. Just ask Isaac Sommers, court fool to Henry VIII during the 1530s. Isaac began each morning the same way, with paralyzing dread. He'd awaken in his small, damp chamber adjacent to the royal apartments, wondering if today would be the day his head and body would part ways over a poorly timed quip. The thing about being a court jester, Isaac often muttered while donning his motley costume, is that you're literally the only person in the kingdom legally allowed to insult the king. It's also the reason you're most likely to die before lunch. Unlike the romanticized jesters of fairy tales, Tudor court fools weren't merely entertainers in funny hats jingling bells. They served as living safety valves for royal tension. When ambassadors, courtiers, and advisors were too terrified to tell the truth, the fool stepped in, wrapping brutal honesty in jest. It was psychological manipulation disguised as entertainment, performed on a knife's edge. Isaac's predecessor had disappeared mysteriously after joking about Queen and Boleyn's fertility troubles. His replacement lasted 6 weeks until suggesting the king's gout might be caused by excessive appetites of all varieties. He was not executed, merely dismissed and imprisoned for a decade. Henry was in a good mood that day. Historically accurate fact number 1. Court jesters often came from humble backgrounds or had physical disabilities. Isaac had both, the son of a blacksmith with a pronounced limp from a childhood accident. In Tudor England, physical differences weren't protected by sensitivity training and HR departments. They were exploited for entertainment. My limp is what saved me from the mines and got me this exalted position where I'm merely one bad poem away from execution. Isaac would tell new serving boys. Count your blessings, lads. Court jesters didn't receive regular salaries like other royal servants. Instead, they relied on gifts, which meant pleasing the temperamental monarch was quite literally how they survived. A good week might bring new shoes or a purse of coins. A bad week? Well, let's just say the Tower of London wasn't known for its hospitality. At precisely 8 o'clock each morning, Isaac would position himself in the king's chambers, ready to amuse Henry as physicians drained his increasingly putrid leg ulcer. The smell alone made conscious thought difficult, but Isaac had to appear spontaneously witty while Henry roared in pain. "How does the leg fare today, your majesty?" Isaac asked one particularly grim morning. "It pains me worse than the French," Henry bellowed. "Then perhaps we should declare war on your leg instead, sire? We've had better luck defeating body parts than the French lately." A dangerous silence followed. The royal physicians froze. Then Henry's booming laugh shattered the tension, and everyone breathed again. Isaac had survived another joke. Historically accurate fact number 2. Court jesters were expected to be on at all times. No sick days, no mental health breaks. When the king wanted entertainment, you performed, whether at 3 a.m. or during diplomatic crises. Isaac once had to juggle while Henry decided whether to execute a nobleman for treason. The nobleman lost his head. Isaac nearly dropped his balls, the juggling kind, that is. "The hardest part," Isaac confided to Wilma Darby, a kitchen maid who occasionally slipped him extra food, "is that I can never just be myself. I must constantly read the royal mood. Is Henry feeling insecure about his manhood today? Better avoid any jokes about his jousting skills. Did the Spanish ambassador slight him? Perhaps a well-timed Spanish insult will earn me a new hat." Wilma nodded sympathetically. "At least in the kitchens, the worst I face is a wooden spoon to my knuckles. You risk your neck daily." "Yes, but you have to deal with the head cook." "I'd rather face the executioner's axe than her temperament," Isaac replied, making her smile despite herself. Life at court was an endless dance of politics. Nobles constantly tried to manipulate Isaac, bribing him to speak well of them to the king or to subtly undermine their rivals. Refusing could make powerful enemies. Accepting could be construed as treason. It was a lose-lose situation wrapped in bells and a pointed hat. During one particularly tense Privy Council meeting, the Duke of Norfolk slipped Isaac a gold coin to mock Thomas Cromwell's common birth. The king was already irritated with Cromwell over monastery dissolution delays. One well-placed jab might tip Henry toward execution. "Your Majesty," Isaac piped up as requested. "Master Cromwell's father was a blacksmith, was he not? My father too. Perhaps that explains why we both know how to strike while the iron is hot, and when to avoid getting burned." Cromwell shot him a look of surprise and slight gratitude. Norfolk glowered. Isaac had fulfilled his obligation to mention Cromwell's origins, but had cleverly turned it into a compliment about political timing instead of mockery. The gold coin would buy food for a week. Cromwell's subtle nod might buy continued existence. Historically accurate fact number 3. Court jesters were often used as messengers for bad news, because they could soften blows with humor. When Henry's warship the Mary Rose sank in 1545 with nearly 500 men aboard, no one wanted to tell the king. The task fell to Isaac. "Your Majesty, remember how you always wanted a navy that would make a splash in history?" he began, trembling inside his motley costume. "Well, the Mary Rose has certainly done that. Quite literally." The king's face darkened like a thundercloud. For a terrifying moment, Isaac prepared to meet his maker. Then Henry sighed deeply. "Tell me everything, fool, and speak plainly now." In that moment, the jester facade dropped, and Isaac delivered the news clearly and respectfully. This dual role, shifting between absurdist comedy and brutal truth-teller, was perhaps the most exhausting aspect of the job. Sleep never came easily to Isaac. Each night, he mentally reviewed every joke, every reaction, every subtle shift in the king's expression. Had he gone too far? Not far enough? Would tomorrow bring royal favor or royal fury? The psychological toll was immense. Many jesters turned to ale for relief, though appearing drunk before the king was itself a punishable offense. Then there was the costume, the motley outfit with its garish colors and uncomfortable fit, the cap with bells that announced your presence and prevented any hope of sneaking away for a moment's peace. Even at formal occasions, while nobles displayed their wealth through sumptuous fabrics, the jester was marked as perpetually different, perpetually other. "We dress as fools so others can feel wise," Isaac explained to a confused French ambassador. "My bells are just more honest than your courtly facades. Mine jingle openly while yours merely make noise behind closed doors." The ambassador laughed uncertainly, not quite grasping the barb hidden within the observation. Life as a jester wasn't completely miserable. There were genuine moments of artistic satisfaction when a perfectly crafted jest landed exactly as intended. There was a certain freedom in being the only person who could speak truth to power. And there was the access to corridors of influence that a blacksmith's son could otherwise never hope to enter. Isaac's finest and most dangerous moment came during the king's darkest hour. Henry, aged and ill, raged about his mortality one stormy night in 1546, driving everyone from his chambers with threats of violence. "Leave me, all of you," he roared. "Useless physicians, grasping courtiers. What good are any of you?" Everyone fled except Isaac, who stood quietly by the fire. "I dismissed you too, fool," Henry growled. "With respect, your Majesty, you ordered out the useful people. As a fool, I'm explicitly useless, so I assumed I should stay." The king stared, then let out a reluctant chuckle that grew into genuine laughter. "You know what, Isaac? In a court full of wise men telling me pleasing lies, perhaps only a fool would dare offer unpleasant truths." The king gestured for wine. "Tell me then, fool, what truth do you offer tonight?" Isaac took a deep breath. "That even kings are mortal, sire. But while men die, what they build can last forever. Whether that's glory or infamy depends not on how fiercely they're feared in life, but how justly they're remembered after." Dangerous words. Treasonous, perhaps. But in that moment, the jester fulfilled his highest purpose, not mere entertainment, but the conscience of the crown. Henry was silent for a long time, "Leave me," he finally said, quietly this time. Isaac bowed and backed toward the door, uncertain if he'd see the morning. "And Isaac?" the king called after him. "Return tomorrow. It seems I need a fool's wisdom more than I realized." When Henry VIII finally died in January 1547, 9-year-old Edward VI ascended the throne. Court jesters became less influential as the Tudor era progressed, with Elizabeth I preferring more sophisticated entertainment. Isaac, having miraculously survived Henry's volatile reign, retired to a small cottage purchased with saved gifts, one of the few jesters to die of natural causes rather than royal displeasure. On his deathbed, surrounded by the family he'd managed to raise despite his dangerous profession, Isaac was asked if he regretted his life at court. "Regret making the most dangerous man in England laugh for 20 years? He wheezed. "Never. Though I may be the only man in history whose successful career depended entirely on not dying from job performance reviews. And that, perhaps, is the final irony of the Tudor court jester. The profession whose entire purpose was creating laughter contains surprisingly little joy for those who practiced it. After all, it's hard to truly enjoy the joke when you're always one punchline away from becoming the punchline."